Okay, so let's get started with the second part of today's session. We were talking about digital story script development process, and we have already developed our first draft based on the recommendations. And now, when revising and editing our draft, we have to pay attention to certain important elements. So, we talked about the step one and step two in the first part, and now we'll continue with the step three, that's outlining and scripting to frame your story. The outline is a key part of digital storytelling process. You have already developed an outline for your story, and some of your outlines were really successful. Some of your outlines needs revision. So we will talk about it in detail in our Telegram group. Now, well, storytellers often seem the most honest if they are able to speak up their outline rather than reading the story word for word. Once it's very important to prepare the script beforehand in order to make it like real life. It's better to retell the story using the outline rather than reading it. So try to make it more real, try to make it engaging by reading it from the outline. Regarding framing your story, the main goal here should be creating an engaging story. As a storyteller, it is helpful to give details for your story to help people understand your point of view. Here are things to keep in mind when framing your story on this topic. So, as usual, we will ask our very important question: what is unique about your story? Nowadays, there are plenty of stories available on the internet. So, among the so many stories, what makes your story unique and why you recommend it to people to watch? So, what is the unique side of your story? Is it based on your unique experience? Is there a message that has never been told before? Or try to think of something that makes your story unique. If you find that point, here you are. You can continue on to the next step. And also, remember that you own your story. While it's important for the story to be honest, it's also important to share your experience because stories usually have personal connection. So this connection is in the first place, and you have to tell that story from your point of view, from your own experience. Digital stories have limited time, as we have already practiced. So you should think about which details are most important in your story and which details to exclude. So based on the draft paper, now in the draft, usually we have more words than necessary. Reread your draft. Try to think of in the terms of ideas in the first place. Now you don't have to edit every single sentence here in this process. Just take a look at your draft again and underline the ideas. I recommend you to underline main ideas or important ideas with red and one while you underline supporting ideas with green. And the ideas that do not really fit into your story, you can underline or cross them out or circle them so that it will be visible at the end which ideas you need to keep and which ideas you need to cross out because you have to make it as short as possible as digital stories are perfectly told in 2-3 minutes. Too long the story is, it will keep the focus of the people away. And also, it's it's recommended to do some exercises before revising your draft. Well, now you have your draft in your hands. That's a long piece of writing. It's basically consists of an introduction, body, and conclusion part, but full of ideas. And usually these ideas are random and not organized yet. Now, when reading your sentences, when reading your messages, try to pay attention to the following things. In the first place, when reading your story, what do you think? can the listener feel what you are saying? So it's not perfect just to tell the story, but you have to make the audience feel in your shoes. It can be done by using five senses, like verbs like see, hear, smell, taste, and etc. So, other than saying that rose has a good smell, you should say, when I smelled this rose, I felt like I was 12-year old playing in the garden of my grandmother or something like that, which will make the listener feel the story rather than just to hear the story. And also, you can try to look at the things from close to far away or from high to low, which means you can start from the big picture and step by step move on to the details, or the vice versa. You can zoom out. So you will start with the detail and then consequently you will build up a big picture at the end of your story. Whatever you choose, try to stick to that direction so that it will not be confusing to your audience. And talking about confusion, the audience usually feels confused when they cannot find out who is telling the story. Is it a teacher? Is it a student? Is it a girl or a boy? Is it the story of an old person or a young person? So try to make it clear by using some details. And of course, there should be a clear message. So, what is the story is about? You should give enough details so that the audience will understand what the story is about in the first place. Of course, timing is important. You have to tell the story in terms of time. So, when it's going to happen? Is it happening now? Did it happen in the past? Or will it happen in future? Based on this, you will choose tenses and verb forms to use. And also, you should create the setting. You should tell where the story is happening. And here again, I recommend you rather than telling, showing, or making the audience feel where this setting is. And of course, you will answer to why you are telling the story by details. And how you tell the story makes the most of it. This is the most important part of it. So, when reading your first draft, keep these questions in mind so that you will have an improved version after revising. Now, cross out unnecessary ideas, underline with red important ideas, and then add sentences or take out the sentences that you don't need. You can now start the first stage of storyboarding, creating a scrapbook to organize photos, words, or other materials. So this part of text matches this picture or and etc. So here in this part, once you are, let's say, confident in the script, you can start selecting the photos. When selecting the photos, additional ideas will come and you will keep revising your script. There are some tips to make your digital story narratives really great. In the first place, try to be truthful. Once it's okay to play with creativity, truthful stories make more sense and they really touch people's hearts. Stories are powerful if they are honest and real. While you don't want your story to feel rehearsed, you should still plan what you want to say and how you would like to say it. The story should show your voice and your personality. A thoughtful and organized story allows for a smooth delivery, and it will also give your story a polished and truthful feel. Next tip is strength. Once storytelling is amazing and engaging, it's the strength of the story that keeps it in the memory of the audience. In order for stories to have an impact on others, storytellers should share their experience from a strong foundation. So you have to stick to that experience you have and build your story based on that experience. When framing your story, You should honestly talk about your experience, but also focus on the strengths that have helped in your recovery. So, the aim of this workshop is to create digital stories that are call to action or have social impact on young people mostly. As educators, we want to make this impact as positive as possible. We want to answer to some challenges that our students are facing in the classroom or outside of classroom. So there are some tips for making your story of great power. The thing you have to concentrate on is the plot. Plot is everything in your narration. That's basically what makes up your story. Although digital storytelling allows for creativity, being a skilled writer is really important here. While there is no single format that stories need to follow, but there are some things that you should consider before creating a digital story. Including these parts helps to engage the audience. For example, stories with impact have an attention getter early on that draws people in. So we talked about it in the previous workshop as well. An attention getter, or as we call it in writing, a hook, will help your audience get engaged to your story till the end. So in the beginning, in the very first seconds of your story, you should give them something that will make them watch your story till the end. It can be a great photo, it can be a proverb or a strong statement, or it can be anything. It's up to your creativity, but it should be an attention getter, and um, that can be a memory or emotion as well that grabs your experience and delivers it in such a way that your audience will stay with you till the end of the story and of course feel in your shoes. The next thing to do is linking your story to your personal experience. In the first workshop, some of you created stories that really touch your personal experience, which made your stories truthful and great. We really felt in your shoes because you were telling it from heart and you were linking that story to your personal experience, which made sense. So, linking stories to your personal experience can be shared by community, and it can show that if you have done this thing, it can be done by others too. So this is also a, a help that you can offer to your students because most of the students they usually search for role models in their life. And as teachers and as storytellers, we can create models for them, positive models to follow. So this should be the first goal when creating this story under one sun. So we are here addressing disabled children in inclusive classrooms who are challenging uh, themselves to get included in the society, and they are facing some challenges like bullies. So, although inclusive education means equality, sometimes it equals to inequality because disabled children are not able to do just the same as normal children. So, when feeling these differences, they will have different experiences. Our task here is to say them that it's okay, that this difference is really okay. So it's just a part of the process. So if we link this to our personal experience, that would be a strong motivation for them to listen to you because they know that you have walked this way before, you have taken this path before, so they see the story or the model shown in the story as as someone or something to follow. So it's really important to create personal models. Last but not least, Try to stick to the time limit, making it from 2 to 5 minutes long when the ideal length is 3 minutes. And in this story, in Under One Sun story, I recommend you to include no more than 20 images. So we are not talking about videos yet. We are still working with images. We have to learn how to do more difficult um, effects with images, and then we will consequently move on to video editing, because video editing is a little bit difficult process. And so when writing a script, you should stuck to the word count of 250 and 350 maybe, because um, if your script is too long, you will not be able to deliver it. So you have to try to speak less, but put strong words and make more impact using this less words. Digital stories are usually short, and as a storyteller, well, I can tell you that viewers usually easily watch digital stories that are short. So humans have limited attention span. So sometimes we don't have enough time, and sometimes we can get distracted. So it's better to make your stories as short as possible. 2, 3 minutes is the ideal length. Try to stick to that from the first step. So when writing a narration, aim at making your story 3 minutes long, no more. And about pace, well, after preparing your outline, you will want to practice telling your story out loud. As you talk, you will notice areas that might need to be fixed. Work on the rhythm and the tempo of your story. Well, the author Joe Lambert, in his book Digital Storytelling Capturing Lives, Creating Community book, says a very good tip. He says, good stories breathe. They move along generally at an even pace, but once in a while they stop. They take a deep breath and proceed. Actually, this is breathing point is what makes your audience think. So that's why it's a really good tip. Try to apply it to your digital storytelling process. So here in our Telegram group, we have created kind of story circle. That's a place where you can share your story with others. Once some people are openly sharing their story, some of you are still keeping it to themselves because maybe you're not feeling confident enough to share your story yet. Maybe you think that you haven't done a good job yet. It's okay. Whatever you have, as short as a paragraph, as long as 2 pages, whatever narration you have, share it now so that we can give our feedback and we can reflect on it. So, storytellers should express their personal stories and support space in order to make them a great storyteller. People can learn to listen and learn to understand others through story circles or discussions, just like in our group. Discussions are good for practicing or sharing your stories and receiving feedback. Discussion session is like a screening of a video used by film producers to find out how audiences respond to their story and how they can make it better. So this is like a previewing. Feedback can range from how the story is being told to the how it's organized. So you can give feedback on how you like the organization of the script, how you like the range or pace, and what you think about the length. Maybe you want to add something, or it would be better to omit something. This gives the storyteller new views and ideas. If you don't know any place where you can share your story, we have a place on Telegram. Please feel free to share your stories because sharing is caring in storytelling. So it's now your turn. In our Telegram discussion, please write about what is unique about your story. we have already tried to answer to this question in our live session last time. So some of you have given really good ideas why it really makes sense to you and why your story is unique. So here we are creating the story called Under One Sun. I have shown you my brainstorming on mindmap.com. So in this story that I have in my mind, I think that unique thing about this story is it's told from the perspective of a disabled kid who is having educational inclusive classroom but really feeling excluded. So here is the challenge. The kid is in the inclusive classroom feeling let's say feeling different here, feeling alien in this classroom. So telling it from the perspective of this child really makes sense to me, because if I tell the story as a teacher, it will not make that impact. So I'm addressing other students in this classroom so that they will understand disabled children's needs, so that they will fill in their shoes. That's why I would choose the perspective of disabled kid for this story. And I think it will make my story unique. So, what are the important points to tell in just a few moments? First important point to tell is that disabled children not always feel included in inclusive classrooms. They face many challenges. This is what I want to give in the background part. And then I will answer to these challenges as an example of one kid by um, putting the pictures of the kid staring through the window once his classmates are playing football outside. So that will make another great impact. And consequently, I will develop uh, a moment where everyone accepts that it's okay. It's okay to feel like that time by time. And difference is not something negative. We are different yet equal. This is the message I want to send to other kids in the classroom. So please, in the discussion board on our Telegram group, share your ideas also on these topics, on these questions. So why do you feel that your story is unique, and what are the important points you want to stick to during your stories? And there are some exercises, as I have discussed in the during the presentation. I will send it to you as a task, and I really hope that based on this recommendation, you will now edit your first draft. Okay, so this is the sample outline, which I have already presented to you last time. Just to summarize the main points of it, there should be a clear beginning, body, and end in each story. So how do we organize the beginning? In the first place, there is something like a hook, which will get your audience attention and motivate them to listen. And then you will offer some background information about the topic. And then you will highlight your experience. It can be your experience as a teacher, as a mother, anyone. And then set the tone for your story. Preview my main ideas. Don't just say them from the beginning. Just preview them, hint at them, and then move to the body of the story. In the body, we have three main tasks. Organizing main points, so saying the main messages, then making sure that the main points we made have enough supporting ideas to make them main. And then we will include examples or supporting materials. That can be pictures, that can be additional information, anything that you would like to include in order to support your main ideas. And the ending point will be summarizing your main points, finishing the circular journey by connecting your beginning and end, and of course, using a strong closing statement so that your story, your digital story will end in a high point. Take your first draft and try to revise your draft based on these recommendations. Take a look at your beginning. Does it have an attention getter? Does it have enough background information? Is it clear for the audience that do they know this problem? Did you give them enough information so that they will follow up on your message, and etc. So based on these recommendations, really read and revise your draft. Once you do that, you will already have a revised version of your draft that you will share in the group, and we will further work on that. Well, as a part of our teacher toolbox, I'm giving you some practical recommendations and tools that you can use in the classroom as a teacher and creating digital stories. So this time we will again go back to Imagine Forest, and I will show you how to use Imagine Forest for creating your narration. Okay, so if you have questions, you can type your questions on the chat, or you can switch on your microphones and you are welcome to ask any questions that you have. Okay, so here we are on imagineforest.com. This is a really good website for creating digital stories. For teachers, it can be too easy or too simple to use, but when you practice digital storytelling in your classroom, it will be extremely helpful too. So let's start with registering part. So I've already registered for this website. So I will just log into my site. If you don't have your account yet, I think we have already registered for this website in the previous session. If you don't have an account yet, you can first register, and then you can start working on that. Okay, here we are. Well, I have created an account as a teacher. So I will show you the example story that I have created recently. Let's go to my library. I apologize for connection problems. Okay, in the library you can find lots of templates and useful tools to use. So here is the simple story I have created as a part of this workshop. That's actually part of narration. It's just the beginning part of the narration. And I have called the story Emmanuel's Dream. It's based on a true story I have read on the internet. So it's about a disabled kid called Emmanuel, and he lives in Ghana in Africa. So this is the picture I have chosen as the part of the first slide. So Emmanuel's Dream, that's the name of the story. And here I have kind of a beginning part. So this is actually the first summary of what's going to happen in the story. So born in Ghana, West Africa, with one deformed leg, he was dismissed by most people, but not by his mother, who taught him to reach for his dreams. As a boy, Emmanuel hopped to school more than 2 miles each way, learned to play soccer, left home at age 13 to provide for his family, and eventually became a cyclist. He rode an astonishing 400 miles across Ghana in 2001, spreading his powerful message: disability is not inability. Emmanuel continues to work on behalf of the disabled. This is the summary text of what my plot is going to be about. And now, from this point, I can continue developing my story. So, we will Yeah, back, and we will edit the story. We will add pages, or I will show you how to do it from the scratch. So, okay, here you have a write button. When you click it, you will have different templates to choose. Just a second. Create a new story button. You will click on that, and here you will add your title. In my case, the title is Emmanuel's Dream. Here I have the title of the story. Now you can choose a cover. Okay, you can search for different photos on this website. They usually give you images which are copyright free. You can freely use them in your digital stories. So I will type here disabled kids. So they are giving me different pictures, and as my story is about a boy from Africa, I will choose this picture. So here I have the kind of an opening part of my story. Now I will move on to the next part. Here you can add pages, and you can choose what to add. A full text page, a picture page, image at the top and text at the bottom, or the vice versa, text top, image bottom. Okay, I will choose in the first place, let's see, full text. And I will enter here the beginning of my story. I can write here introduction. So, and I will insert to a part, so hook or attention getter. I will write here an attention getter. Here, I'm open to your suggestions. So what do you suggest? When creating a story about disabled kid in Ghana with one deformed leg who run in the marathon so many kilometers, so how can I start this story with something interesting that really catches audience attention? Well, I expect your suggestions in a text form in our discussion board. Try to think of that. If you didn't have any ideas for your own story, because not all of us have experience with inclusive classrooms, try to follow up on this story. I will send the beginning of this Emmanuel's dream story to you. It's based on true events. It's based on real life events. I will send you the plot and I will send you the beginning so that you can follow up on it and so that you can develop a story based on this if you don't have your own ideas, or you can use your own experience if you have experience of working with disabled kids. So I will share the beginning story with you on Imagine Forest. And I really recommend you to create the beginning of your story or the narrative of your story on this website because it will be easy to edit. It will be easy to revise. It will be easy to share. And also it will give you everything readily. You will have a clear word count. You know how many words you are having. So here I'm having only one word yet. Okay, so it will even help you with the pace. So um, when you read it, you will know how much time you are spending on it. So how long your story will be. It has a time counters as well. So here you can, for example, get some inspiration. So you can click on the story starters and you can get some questions or you can get some tips or hooks that helps them to ignite your imagination. Or you can take pictures, you can save your project, you can add, well, you can add any kind of emoticons and etc. So your task for today is to continue up your story using Imagine Forest. If you don't have your own ideas for the story, if you don't have personal experience related to inclusive classrooms and disabled children's feelings in inclusive classrooms, I recommend you to continue this story. I hope that we will have a really powerful digital story based on Emmanuel's experience because the story really made impact on me. It's truthful, real life and powerful story. And I think your students should know this story. They should be told this story to make them understand that disability is not inability. And this statement here, disability is not inability, is actually the central message of the story. So as I told you already, you have to always type out the central message, put it in front of your computer, and do not include into your narration anything that does not relate to that idea. So you have to serve the main idea because digital stories are short. Well, thank you for being with us today. I will stay on for some minutes to answer to your questions on the chat. Please feel free to type any questions that you have, or you can further ask questions on our Telegram group. And I will be waiting. I will be looking forward to your draft of narrations this week. Well, have a nice weekend ahead, and feel free to ask any questions if you have some.